Well, welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the house barrage, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. How's everybody doing, chat, as we start the streaming for another week of constant, fucked up shit. And support the, and we're streaming also in support of the crowdfunded translation project, which I'd like to tell you a little bit about. The crowdfunded translation project is an idea I came up with a few years ago, because I realized there's a whole lot of stuff that really ought to get translated. Interesting things that would be in the public interest to have available. And there was no individual client that was willing or able to cover the cost of doing it properly. So they just kind of sat there. One example, a friend of mine, friend of the stream as well, who see her sometimes in chat, mentioned that there was a whole book-length manuscript by Alexandra Kollontai that had just kind of sat there for over a century, never getting translated. And she was frustrated by that, and I thought, well, that seems like an absolute perfect example of the sort of thing that the crowdfunded translation project would be for. And now it's available both as a full-length PDF on my Patreon page and also as a book from Haymarket. And so that's the basic idea. Stuff that really ought to be available, that would be an enrichment to have available in translation, so that audiences that are not currently able to read it can. But that nobody's is willing or able to foot the bill entirely for. And so I crowdfund it and I translate as funds come in. That's the crowdfunded translation project. And I've got some interesting stuff going on. If you want to see the finished translations from the two current projects, you can find them at that link. If you want to support the project with a donation, you can do that here. And you will find in a recent post on that Patreon, there is, well, actually, I'll just say it. If you have an idea for something that the crowdfunded translation project ought to take an interest in, you can contact me with it at crowdfunded_translations at elisehendrick.com. I'll drop that link in that email and chat. There we go. Now, one thing I've noticed as U.S. support, public support in the U.S. for the Zionist entity has just been bottoming out in the past couple of years, is that certain voices are being systematically platformed. Voices that you would call critical of Israel, like that somebody might, if they squint just right, even call pro-Palestinian. Those two things are very much not the same thing, it's worth noting. And they all have certain things in common, other than getting major media platforms. And the one is, they're all kind of seriously racist. The other, however, is that they all ascribe to this narrative that lets the U.S. off the hook completely by claiming that actually it's Israel that's controlling the U.S. The tail is wagging the dog. They don't actually explain how this is supposed to work. I mean, except for like hand-waving out the lobby. But, they never really, you never really hear a serious argument being made. I mean, even like the academic proponents of this version of things don't really make a very serious argument for it. Because the thing is, if you wanted to talk about the Israel lobby, you have to look at it in context. And the context is that there are lots of ruling class interests in the U.S. that benefit heavily from U.S. control of the Arab-Iranian region and the U.S.'s use of Israel in order to maintain that control, like the arms industry and the oil and gas industry. And if you're going to make the argument that actually those don't matter, it's actually the Israel lobby is overriding everything, then you would have to, at the very least, show that there was some reason to think the arms industry and the oil and gas industry were somehow unhappy with the arrangement. Except they're not. They're doing great. I mean, like, this war is actually great for both of them. I mean, crude prices are like over 110 a barrel, I think. And, I mean, the arms industry is certainly doing pretty well. I mean, because they're underwriting this entire fucking thing. This, criminal war of aggression against Iran that's going on right now. They're making a fucking mint on it. The U.S. interests that are most directly connected to the region are all very happy with this situation. Despite the fact that the U.S. really isn't winning this thing. And is, in fact, in the midst of an extremely costly embarrassment. But the other thing is, now more than ever, it is a really silly case to make, because Israel has never been, it's been a very long time anyway, since Israel's been this weak. Especially relative to the U.S. They, for nearly 3 years now, have been just shooting off their ammunition, their bombs, their missiles, all their artillery and all that shit about as quickly as the U.S. can deliver. They don't have stocks. They are not maintaining stockpiles. They have isolated themselves internationally to the extent that really only the U.S. is the U.S. is like the only country they can really count on. Nobody else really, even Germany, is starting to distance themselves, which is really kind of interesting. Like, at a press conference just the other day, the Bundespressekonferenz, journalist Thilo Jung asked the spokesperson for Germany's foreign office, Hinterseher, about Germany's decision not to intervene on Israel's behalf in the South African genocide proceedings in the International Court of Justice. And that's the bit that got really heavily reported, but what was more interesting even than that was Thilo Jung's follow-up question. He asked he pointed out that the previous government, Scholz and Baerbock and them, had said when South Africa first brought the case that the charge of genocide was absurd and baseless. So Jung decided to ask the spokesperson for the Foreign Office whether the German government stands by that position now. Gave him like 3 different opportunities to just say, yeah, that remains our position. This decision not to proceed with the intervention in the ICJ case does not reflect a change in our view of the situation. And Hinterseer, the Foreign Office spokesperson, declined every opportunity. He dodged the fucking question completely. 3 times he was asked whether they stand by those words, and 3 times he avoided saying one way or another. Which sounds like, somebody is hedging their bets. So Israel is more isolated than they've been in a very long time. And they're actually really in the shit in a lot of ways. Economically, their economy has been falling apart practically since 2023. Certainly since mid-2024. There's a huge brain drain going on. Like, all sorts of specialists are just leaving the place. And about half of the settler population are at least seriously considering packing up and getting the hell out of there. It is not a situation that is particularly sustainable for them. So the idea that, as I've heard people say, you could make the argument that U.S. imperialism is the deciding factor, but now it really, as things are now, it just has to be Israel's awesome, unexplained power. And no, it doesn't, because if anything, Israel's stock is lower than it's been in, like, ever. Israel on its own does not last. At this point, they would probably collapse. If the U.S. was even late with an arms delivery, they'd probably collapse. So, no, it does not make any fucking sense to suggest that Israel is the deciding factor here, including in this war, because this war is hitting Israel harder than it is, anyone else who instigated it. Like, it's a costly embarrassment for the U.S., but the U.S. is thousands of miles away. Nobody is attacking, New York or D.C. or Miami or fucking Chicago or whatever. Nobody's like drone striking L.A. Bonsoir. But Israel's getting directly hit, like, every fucking day at this point. Their missile defenses have failed. They are getting direct hits on all their core military facilities and everything. It is really looking bad for them. They are getting wrecked. In fact, Netanyahu was giving, in his first press conference, since people started speculating that he might be dead, he actually he said a bunch of things that are basically the Israeli way of saying that they want to get the hell out of this thing as quickly as possible. He started talking about how Iran is no longer capable of making ballistic missiles or firing them off or something like that. No evidence provided, of course. It's nonsense what he's saying. And, he's done this before. He did this when Israel had to beg for a ceasefire from Hezbollah in Lebanon in 2024. And he claimed that, Hezbollah has no missile capacity or anything like that. They have no military capability. And it's like, well, that's clearly not true. They seem to actually have a fair bit of capability. Like, they are carrying out more operations now than they were back in 2024, for fuck's sake. So, but somehow, that one angle, the one that exonerates the U.S. and puts it into some sort of vague and potentially anti-Semitic territory, that's the argument that gets platformed. Not people who want to talk about U.S. imperialism or anything like that, but people who want to make it about the lobby and stuff. And so you have, like, assholes like Tucker Carlson or Tom Kent or whatever, and they sort of dominate they are always the ones being brought in, or this so-called Professor Jiang are the ones who are brought in to sort of represent people who are critical of Israel in, like, major media platforms. But, okay. So, I have here... Oh, hang on. I have to get my restream chat where I can actually see it once I've full screened the videos. There's a new channel. I mean, it's not new, but I had never heard of it, and it's new to me. Showed up in my Rex, and I'm kind of curious. I've got a few things on here. I just was reminded of this. This is by something called Sideburns. Has anyone heard of this chat as a guy called Sideburns? It's from 4 days ago. It's called Why Leftists Like Purity Testing More Than Winning. And I haven't watched it. Usually I don't watch things before I watch them on here. So I don't know where he's going with this, but I'm kind of curious. You want to be curious with me, chat? Buckle in, we'll see where this goes. And maybe we won't go with it for very long, depending on where it goes. This is Sideburns, Why Leftists Like Purity Testing More Than Winning.
So this is Charles McBride. He's an influencer. I think some of you probably follow him. I'm aware of him because of Instagram. And
that's not a great photo. I have to say, that's not a great still of him. He looks like he's been shocked by something.
To this the other day about the notion of an alt-left pipeline. I found it interesting. Maybe I can make this a little bit bigger.
The alt-left pipeline. Oh, I can't wait. This sounds like there's going to be some world building, chat.
Let's get, okay, we don't want to like overlap, get off my cloud, dog. But let's talk about the alt-left pipeline.
Yeah,
if it doesn't exist, let's see what Charles has to say about it.
I mean, I don't know who this guy is. I have a feeling that he's probably some kind of a lib, just judging from that title. But, I mean, alt-left is a term that Nazis made up. So, you might be careful using it.
Charles, take it away.
The goal of every single leftist content creator should be for their audience to outgrow their content. See,
no.
Okay, well, what does that mean?
I get what he's saying, though, but also no.
A strategic blunder that a lot of people on the left are making when it comes to online content creators. They are...
I mean, if we mean outgrow in the sense that, we're providing sort of a phase in intellectual and political development or whatever, and that in a way that encourages people to continue beyond that. I mean, okay, but I don't know that that's what this guy is saying.
Failing to realize that some of us are trying to construct an alt-left pipe.
Now, just in case we're not aware of this,
yeah.
There is a thing.
Also, he says us, which is weird because I've never heard of Charles McBride. I don't know if he's...
Called the alt-right pipeline. And we think about what an alt-right pipeline looks like. Think about the way in which a lot of people, especially young men, start listening to like a podcast because they're talking about exercising or fighting or sport.
Or race science.
In a certain way. And then that slowly gets into light conspiracy or anti-Semitism and all this sort of stuff, right?
Anti-Semitism? Hey, Riveroon. Have
you
heard of Sideburns or this Charles McBride, Riveroon? I've never heard of either of these people. They showed up in my Rex. They're talking about purity testing and the alt-left pipeline, and I have absolutely, since I've never heard of them, I have no idea exactly what perspective this is coming from, but I feel like it's probably going to be some lib bullshit.
Alt-right stuff doesn't start as like, hey, what's up? Welcome to the Nazi show. You know what I mean? They're like, hey.
Well, I don't know. Asmongold these days kind of does.
This is about working out. This is about empowering yourself. This is about getting chicks. This is about getting chicks or something like that, right? And then via capturing...
I will say I like his t-shirt. I mean, cool t-shirt.
Someone's attention, On that
If you can't see it because of his mic, it says abolish ICE.
This bassist, shout out to Jaco Pastorius. Is that you say that guy's name? I don't know. But on that bassist, they get into more political content. I think the idea
This is McBride with a Y and Charles. Hey, Badger, how you doing?
here is that a lot of more progressive or left-wing creators, and this is at least the critique I've had before, are very upfront where they're just like, "What's up, fucking judge? Welcome to Marxist happy hour," and blah blah.
Yeah, exactly. That is true, because we're not trying to hide what we're doing. We are not, like, ashamed of our ideological positions the way Nazis reasonably feel compelled to, because they know what they're saying is not socially acceptable, and they're trying to sort of make sure that people are taken in. We want to be upfront.
Blah, in a way that is alienating to people that might not already have those political predispositions, and also,
well, yes, but the thing is, the whole point is that the reason it's alienating is they have no idea what those things mean. They've just been told that they're bad. Okay, now defunct podcast channel Wisecrack. I've not heard of that either. But the whole point is, these people who are somewhat uncomfortable with, with those terms, hang out in the stream, they watch the content, they realize, actually, these are actually pretty cool people who stand for pretty cool things, or they decide they're not interested and they go away. Either one. But the point is, by being upfront, if you want to actually address the stigma, you have to be upfront.
a way that's not that attractive to those who maybe don't want to talk about politics all the time. Like, a lot of left-wing content is just talking about left-wing stuff all the time, and never anything else that's like fun or cool or interesting or casual. But all I'd say is
that isn't my... I don't know who he's talking about. I don't know enough about this guy to know what counts as left-wing as far as he's concerned. But I feel like, actually, that sort of varies. Because, if you look at... Bridget Empire, a creator I quite like, she had a video. A lot of the time, these things are actually building the sort of political analysis into things that are cool and fun and that people just enjoy, and also that fascists are trying to instrumentalize. Like, Bridget Empire has a great video on how reactionaries don't understand Game of Thrones. I've never watched Game of Thrones. I'm actually now somewhat interested in it, or read it for that matter. But it was a really good video, and it's a way of... So there are people who are sort of bringing those things in there.
Thinking about...
Oh, speaking of bringing things in there, we got some link spam in here. Where's my cursor so I can get rid of it? Yep, there we go.
Pipeline in general, content pipeline, and a sort of right-wing pipeline. That's what we're thinking about. Back to Charles.
We all understand.
In fact, one of the ideas behind a lot of this stuff, I've heard it called algorithmic hijacking. Oh, okay. John the Duncan has I like John the Duncan a lot. Okay, so this guy's actually okay. That's good to know, because if he collabed with John the Duncan, he sounds like he's probably decent people. Because if you haven't watched John the Duncan, absolutely check him out. He's great. He does really good analysis, very deep analysis. He's also quite funny, and he's Scottish. So he says everything in an absolutely delightful accent.
The alt-right pipeline worked, and how it radicalized an entire generation of people into right-wing ideology. We don't have that.
It didn't radicalize an entire generation. It never had that level of success, which is why they feel the need to constantly claim that they're the majority to the actual minority who are into them.
Because we don't have billions of dollars to throw at misinformation.
Also, important note. I'm just gonna reiterate him. I shouldn't do that. But a lot of the assholes have a lot of money, and the left doesn't have a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, very true.
Smart, talented people trying to make their content more accessible to people who would typically think that leftists are crazy and weird. Let me give you a visual aid. Okay, so
Yeah, the thing is, and here's the thing with this is with what this Charles McBride is saying, rather than what Sideburns dude Michael Burns is saying. Is he was saying because this McBride fellow was saying something like that it's a problem that we're upfront about where we stand on things. And he also said at the same, and he was also talking about the stigma. But the thing is, if you want to overcome the stigma, you can't dance around it. The whole point is, you say, yeah, hey, I'm a communist, and now we're gonna play some Don't Starve. And it's like, oh wow, this person's a communist, and we had a real, and they had a really entertaining Don't Starve stream, and they seem to have very actually decent views on things. Maybe communists aren't like aliens that eat babies or whatever. Okay, see, that is what I was trying to find out, because the title of the video made me think this might be some lib bullshit. When I don't know about somebody, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt and not like go in hot until I know for sure. So thank you very much for checking that out. Very helpful, Riveroon. Yeah, I mean, if this podcast collabed with John the Duncan and Andrewism, and this guy was involved in that, then I would assume that he probably is on a decent wavelength. That this isn't going to be like some fucking David Pac-Man shit.
this is
Where are we? We're there. So shitlib, progressive, hot girls for Zoran, DSA member, read on authority, based Marxist, Leninist, super soldier. It is the bottom of label yourself.
Based Marxist, Leninist, super soldier. Interesting hand. I have to say, weird handwriting. I've never seen an I done that way.
On that pile, are you shitlib? Are you progressive? Are you a hot girl for Zoran? Are you a DSA member? Are you reading on authority? I think.
Yeah, I believe that's the one of Engel's, I have to say, less impressive works.
That's what it says. Or are you a based Marxist, Leninist, super soldier?
You are Vladimir Lenin's strongest soldier. You know everything there is to know about the immortal science of Marxism-Leninism. But you didn't start out here, right? You started out somewhere up here. And the only way that you made it down here is because somebody was patient and kind enough to tell you how this all worked. Now,
okay, I mean, I there is definitely that. I wouldn't fundamentally disagree, although I do have to say, thinking back to, like, how I got started in all this. And it turns out, in this context, I discovered recently, the first protest I ever went to, there's a full take of it on C-SPAN. I'm not in it, but that was just an interesting thing to see, because I remember the protest well, and seeing that there was film of this actually rather formative moment for me was kind of a neat experience. Back at, part of it, actually, this goes to what this Charles McBride was saying a minute ago, is part of what made, what brought me to where I am now, is that people who were, people I met who were cool and were helpful and interesting would open, and, seem to have good ideas about stuff, would openly identify themselves and say, yeah, hi, I'm a communist. Just openly. And so it's like, and which was a whole new thing for me at the time, because, especially back then, there was a huge stigma around, openly saying that sort of thing. Oh, you have told me all I needed to know in order to understand where this is coming from. And I really, really appreciate it. Because I like to actually have... I like to make sure that I'm fair to people and that I'm not completely getting them wrong.
Oh,
I mean, that's reflective, too, of, I think, the sort of violence, not violence, that was too aggressive, but the desire for purity that you have amongst leftist and especially leftist content creators, that a lot of the like branding and the community comes via a drive for purity more.
See, I think this word gets massively overused. Sorry about the coughing. Let's see where he goes with it.
Does come more than it comes from like a drive for inclusion, you know?
Well, and again, this is where I do have to say, inclusion of whom?
Things that I talked about some of this last week that has annoyed me on the internet has been people on the left who are kind of like nitpicky or hypercritical of people that are like a little bit removed from them on either side in a way that sort of makes the circle smaller. Whereas it does feel like, for better or worse, on the right, those freaks are just like trying to get anyone in.
That is a real misconception of the far right. I mean, you can see it right now, actually. The way they're fucking eating each other alive over the interpretation of the rotten legacy of Charlie Kirk.
Is as you were moving down this pipeline, you probably thought that each level you were at was the one that you'd stay at. And then you got a little bit more radicalized and a little bit more radicalized. And then once again, you ended up at the spot that you thought was most important. Now,
okay, so when I hear this guy describing it that way, okay, so that gives me an idea of his perspective. That's kind of nice to see. So, okay, these people are probably people that I find myself at least very, very broadly in agreement with. Not shit libs that I'm going to take the piss out of, though I do have some of those, and we'll just see where this goes. I'm going to drop the link in chat. I should have done that a minute ago. For anyone who wants to watch the whole thing. There it is.
Remember, all of these other people that we're trying to attract are still somewhere in this pipeline. Maybe they haven't even fallen into it yet.
What? Wait, this is a dumb thing that I'm like struggling to remember now. Okay, never mind. I get it. I had to think that.
So we're making content that brings them down this process. Now, when you were just a DSA member, or
I like what he's like when you were.
I have to say, I never was one. I did read Dissent a few times.
Just a DSA member. I don't know Charles McBride personally. He's fucking great hair though, but I don't like just a DSA member. I don't like just. That's a thing. That's a real thing.
Aggressive.
I mean, I suppose it is a thing that exists.
Or maybe you just called yourself a centrist and you thought that was the proper end to your political journey. What you didn't have was the humility to realize that your political journey wasn't over yet and you had further down to go.
I mean, okay, I think these are very reasonable points. Although I have to say, my own experience, I don't know, maybe this is very different. Maybe I'm unusual in this regard. It wouldn't exactly be the only regard I've ever been unusual in. But I've always been very much sort of a political eclecticist, a theoretical eclecticist. If I see something that looks like it has an interesting take that might be worth reading or checking out in whatever way, I look at it, I assimilate it, I make it part of my, and I integrate its existence into my overall analysis of things to the extent that it's worthwhile. In whatever way that might be. So I've never really had this idea that I was at the end of a journey personally. I don't know what your own experiences are, Chad. I'd be interested in hearing about them. But for me, it's always been, I've just always been looking for more stuff, looking for more information, looking for more analysis, trying to make more sense out of what the fuck's going on and what to do about it and everything. And that has kind of been like a central axis of most of my life at this point, actually.
Someone was patient enough to show you the way. And now you're...
And like spiritually, I think that's a reason why I know personally I always come back to a little bit, and for some leftists this isn't good, a little bit of that kind of existentialist spirit in which one has to recognize the inability of thinking the totality and of the undecidability of certain elements of existence, such that we can never, and I guess this isn't even like existential, this goes back to like Socrates, right? But the idea that we are never beyond examination, we're never beyond mistakes, we're never beyond misunderstandings.
Okay, important point
of like ontological.
And yeah, I think that is indeed. I mean, not only Socrates, but Socrates certainly was in there.
Humility, and even getting into like Hegel and Marx and stuff like that. The dialectic doesn't end. If we're going to be like dialecticians,
I mean, even Francis Fukuyama is allowed as how maybe history could go on for a little bit.
It's not like, okay, I'm at this point now, so the dialectic stopped, we're just here, because the dialectic is dialectical. Whoa. Take a bunch of acid and listen to me saying that over and over.
I don't think I will.
That's a way of agreeing with what he's saying there. But again, like, I also have a sort of sympathy or empathy for the drive for certainty, because in a world that is increasingly uncertain and unstable, being able to hold on to something and say like, I get it, I have access to the right thing, feels really good.
See, it's funny to hear this today of all days, because I was thinking about that feeling that you get when you see that your theoretical framework has indeed allowed you to expect, I'm not going to use the word predict exactly, but expect the general direction things have been going on. And that's sort of comforting on a certain level, because your theoretical framework is load-bearing. It's actually doing the thing it's there for. But on the other hand, when your theoretical framework was predicting this like endless fucked up shit, it's like, it isn't that comforting either, because it's like, yeah, I was right about it. I thought things were going to suck, and things are sucking in exactly the way I thought they would. Yeah, so it's a very limited comfort in that way.
In the same way that maybe like you grew up being someone who was really into good movies or good music, and people around you like crap, and you were like, well, I'm not as popular as everyone, but I like the right thing. I get it. I think it's a healthier or more normal thing to feel when you're 17 than when you're 37, though, right?
You're probably thinking,
well, yeah, but that's matters of taste. That's a different thing. I mean, when you're talking about like matters of taste versus, say, matters of ethics and morality, or matters of like theoretical, theoretically conceptualizing how the world works. Taste, there is nothing objective to it. You like the things you like. There are reasons you like them. There are reasons you don't like other things, maybe. But fundamentally, it's just, you like the things you like. When you get down to it, that's all there is. But there's more to it when you're talking about things like moral and ethical standpoints, and when you're thinking, and of course, there is a definite test when you're talking about like theoretical frameworks for how the world functions. Because if your framework allows you to more or less accurately predict the development certain things are going to take in general, then that suggests that you've probably got something right there. Maybe it wasn't. Although sometimes people brag about predicting shit that was obvious, like that fake ass Professor Jiang, who's dining out on the fact that in 2024 he predicted that Trump was going to win. Like literally, practically everyone did. Or at the very least, I mean, I will say, I didn't strictly say that he was going to win. I said I felt for most of the year that it was too close to call. But I mean, that's, the one thing I was not predicting, and the one thing nobody I heard, like, other than just complete shills, was predicting was any kind of landslide for Harris.
That there is no further for you to go down. That may be the case, but remember, that's also what you thought when you were up here. So if you notice that certain leftist content creators aren't explicitly
I want to look at something that Tonk said here. When a lefty espouses something, off or stupid, we cringe. But when righties talk to righties, it's all bad faith and troll trial balloons. So the only concern is if the rhetoric is effective. I mean, I had a moment.
Well, yes, I mean, to some extent, yeah. But it's also, it has to be effective for certain things. Although the thing is, a lot of these pricks, they're literally just in it for the money. If you pay them to say other shit, they'll say other shit. But yeah.
Listen, I will confess. I'm going to confess. Fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, I have sinned. I was listening to an episode of a podcast recently that I've enjoyed. And it was started by two people who sort of, I think, are self-avowed, like, have recently been radicalized and are on a journey of leftist education and produce a podcast that lots of people listen to that does a good job of exposing them to those ideas. And at one point in an episode, one of the hosts said something kind of positive about Ezra Klein.
Ugh. Why? Like, positive? What's positive about Ezra? I mean, like, okay, I will say the one thing I've heard people say that is kind of positive is that despite being at the New York Times, he seems to have a mild objection to at least some kinds of genocide, but...
And my sort of lefty gatekeeping gut check thing was like, fuck you, I don't listen to this anymore.
I mean, I will say, the minute I say, I will not go that far, but I do get kind of suspicious. I get kind of suspicious because there are patterns. And so I really want to know. I mean, it's the way I was suspicious of this title as well. I'm glad that I watched it because, I mean, it turns out my suspicions were, I would say, so far misplaced. But when you hear somebody say that they really like Ezra Klein, the next question, I mean, the question is why? What do you like about him? Because Ezra Klein is a fascist sympathizing ghoul. He's it.
Ezra Klein? Ezra Klein, no way. But, like, you know what? When I read a little bit more about it, and these are people who literally have said, like, in the past couple of years, they've been radicalized. And then part of my brain goes, well, why should they have a podcast? Well, I don't know, maybe because they're working on their education and their political education in a public and open way, in a way that's probably a lot more accessible to someone who's curious about that and someone whose podcast starts with, like, first of all, everyone recite some Mao together.
Does anyone's podcast actually do that? I mean, I think he's probably joking. I mean, and honestly, the internet is a big place. There's probably somebody who has a very small podcast where that is how it starts. It's big enough for that to exist. But, I mean, yeah. But at the same time, given what Ezra Klein stands for, like the racism, the transphobia, the saying that Charlie Kirk practiced politics the right way, whatever the fuck he meant by that. I mean, that is a suspicious thing to say. I would immediately have my doubts about somebody who said that, and I would want to know more. I mean, because maybe they got the name wrong. I mean, there's so many E. Kleins out there. I mean, I actually wrote the title of a video wrong. I called Ezra Klein Ethan Klein. I mean, not that Ethan Klein doesn't also suck, which makes it even more confusing. But you'd really want to know exactly why. Because so much of what he says just is horrible. I mean, it's not like it's just sort of like theoretically dodgy or something like that, or I mean, it's just it's awful. Like, it's throwing trans people on the bus. It's like endorsing white supremacism.
You know, so all I'd say is like I get that. I think it's bad, and I think again, like, people on the right wing will be like, oh yeah, you think the craziest thing ever? Oh, but you want to be on our team? I'm gonna rewind just a second because I think I cut our boy off a little bit there.
May be the case, but remember, that's also what you thought when you were up here. So if you notice that certain leftist content creators aren't explicitly coding their videos leftist and are actually willing to use more accessible language that feels liberal or even
conservative, I'm curious about. Liberal, I get.
I mean, I can see coding one's videos neutrally. And of course, coding one's videos for the algorithm, which just, it results in annoying fucking titles that I absolutely detest, and the writer in me just wants to rewrite all of them. But I can understand it.
Again, I think this is like an interesting point, in as much as if I'm just a normal guy and I'm looking at some sort of content and the person starts espousing the holy art of dialectic, I might be a little thrown off or confused. Or if someone presupposes that I'm operating with a high level understanding of a certain political program, whereas appealing to culture, appealing to experience.
Yeah, except of course the thing is there's kind of a place for all of that stuff. I mean, you can have, you know, podcasts and content that are made, you know, with an audience in mind that doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of theoretical background, hasn't necessarily done a whole lot of reading, doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of experience, but also have stuff for people who do. I mean, those things can very much coexist.
And maybe using language that's more accessible is important. And I think this is strategically important because often you can talk about stuff, you can talk about things in a way, because we're so caught up in like rhetoric and language, such as there's people who've never read a word of Marx, but if you say Marxism, they're like, oh shit. Or you don't really know communism, you say communism, they're like, oh fuck.
See, and this is precisely why I think it's good to have, like, creators, you know, even if they're mostly just doing vanilla stuff, you know, even if they're just playing chess or fucking Candy Crush Saga or Angry Birds or whatever, to name two very, very up-to-date games. To have that, you know, to have that sort of self-identification. Fucking tickle in my throat, sorry. Weakens this visceral reaction that we've been trained to have.
You know, all these sorts of people. But often if you describe practical elements of their position and what it would look like for humans, then they're like, well, that sounds good though.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, very true. Very absolutely true.
Charles McBride again. He's probably like TikTok and stuff too. I don't go on TikTok. I know him as an Instagram guy, and I just found this video provocative in a good way.
Okay, I think I'm going to switch over. Once again, I'm going to drop the link in chat. I'm going to see what else we've got, though. Because this looks like an interesting video. Andrea says, I took a graduate course on German philosophers, read Hegel, and went straight to Marxism to the chagrin of my professor. Yeah. Yeah, that could happen. Okay. So, I think we're going to look at some ass gold. This is called Everyone Just Turned on Iran.
More bombings from Iran. So Iran is now bombing.
Wisecrack was a philosophy channel that would analyze movies, TV, pop culture, etc. Michael is a professor who went to Princeton. Okay, interesting.
Natural gas facilities. Qatar, largest gas industrial hub. The attack was by Iran.
Yes, and it's worth... of course, he does not mention it. I don't think he's going to mention it. But this was in response to Israel and the U.S. bombing the largest natural gas field in the world in Iran.
So now they're attacking different random industries.
Not what, random? You think that's random?
Uh-oh. Oh my god.
As he drinks his fucking Coke.
Ah. Jesus Christ. And Iran allegedly killed 4 Palestinians.
Oh, wait. Oh, okay, somebody in his chat says, random. Israel just blew up their natural gas fields right before. Yeah.
Probably a lot more than that. But, oh, here's another one. Oh, my God. Look how big this is. Look at the distance on this. Oh, my God. Look at that. Oh, holy shit. Oh, yeah.
Like, what? Is this all that he's gonna fucking do the whole time?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Like, what? He's just repeating after them. Wow, this is a very useful analysis he provides. I can see why people tune into this guy.
Oh shit. Is that it? Yeah, it's like it's basically the same thing. Yeah. I feel like they use it at about the same time, right? Oh God, God is best. Yeah.
I know, inshallah means if God wills it.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's oh shit. Yeah. Oh shit. And oh shit. Shit too. Oh my fucking God. The U.S. Asked Israel not to attack Iranian oil facilities, but they did so in retaliation.
No, I mean, no, they did not do so in retaliation. They did so in the first place, and
they attacked those U.S. allies hosting U.S. bases. Well, I mean, here's the thing: is that if Iran is attacking an ally, or sorry, like a neutral third party,
Iran is not attacking any neutral third parties, though.
There's really no justification for that.
Yeah, but they're not neutral. Like, they're hosting U.S. bases. The U.S. is carrying out attacks using their fucking territory. That's literally not what neutral means.
Like, if Israel bombs you and then you go and bomb a third country...
That's, like, literally not what's going on.
That's like you losing a game in Xbox Live and then you go and punch your dog.
What? Wow. Like, I mean, let's just remember that this guy was talking, you know, just a couple of years ago about how wiping out all Palestinians sounded like a good idea. And now he's like, wait, you know, how can you, if just because the U.S. and Israel attack you, that doesn't mean you get to attack their bases.
Like, it's got really nothing to do with it. I mean, like...
Well, except for the fucking U.S. bases.
Like, what do you mean? Of course, Israel, yeah, war is war. I mean, yeah, but, like, it's not even a war. Like, Qatar...
Yes, it fucking is. What's your definition of a war, then? I mean...
Qatar's not even fighting them.
There's hosting U.S. bases that are being used to attack them. Like, if you do that... I mean, and Iran's been very clear on this. They have said, you know, if these countries refuse to allow the U.S. to use their bases, then they will not be touched. And they have refused to do that. In fact, the U.S. immediately... Yeah, this is all random. That is a very useful thing to know about his head. I once called him Aspen Goldfish, and that sounds about right.
Qatar isn't sending missiles over to Iran.
I wonder if maybe the issue is that Qatar has U.S. bases on it. Like, CENTCOM is right there.
Qatar isn't the one doing that at all. So
they're just providing the territory to make it possible. They're just hosting the regional command and control facilities that are in control of this particular war of aggression. Gee, they have nothing to do with it at all.
Don't even know what the hell's going on. And
yeah, I agree. He doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Just take Iran out fully now. I think that it's becoming more and more evidently clear that Iran has to get destroyed.
I mean, I think it's becoming more and more clear that that's not going to happen.
It is. Like, I don't know how many more massive, huge natural disasters that they have to effectively create.
I wonder, I love it. He's just treating this like they're doing this out of nowhere. Like, nobody has been, say, bombing their schools and hospitals and universities and infrastructure and their main oil refinery. Yeah, the comparison of fucking Xbox.
Before people realize that Iran is a terrorist state and they...
Wow, so the idea is that Iran is a terrorist state because when the US and Israel start bombing the shit out of civilian targets within the country, they fight back. Wow, that's terrible. I mean, why must they fight back?
Need to be totally destroyed. Like, completely destroyed. I think every single country in the entire...
Wait a second here. I mean, he was just talking about how, why does Iran get to attack countries that host U.S. bases just because they're being used to attack Iran? That's not fair. They're neutral. And now he's like, yeah, we should exterminate all Iranians. Just kill everybody. I mean, like, this guy has, like, an amazing compartmentalization system.
Our world should consolidate around neutralizing this threat.
I mean, he talks about this, again, not exactly shockingly. He does not seem to be aware of where most of the world stands on this. He thinks that if the world were to unite militarily to take out a particular threat, that it would be Iran. And no, it fucking wouldn't.
The tweet frames it as being deserved for being Zionist aligned. Well, the thing is that Iran, whenever you're bombing other random people...
They're random people.
Like, whenever you're sending bombs out because of your ideology...
Oh, that's why they're sending bombs out, because of their ideology. They have this weird ideology that says when they get attacked, they shoot back. I mean, the U.S. would never do that.
Ultimately, you have to look at this from a self-preservation point of view.
That is what they're doing, actually. Wouldn't that be wild if maybe the reason that they are escalating right along with, and actually just behind, the U.S. and Israel, is that they're looking at this from a self-preservation standpoint and realizing that if they just, if they let this shit slide, it's just going to continue getting nastier and nastier and more dangerous. And eventually it's going to just engulf everything.
Does Iran have the right to just bomb and kill anybody?
Then, they aren't exercising. What about, does the U.S. have the right to just bomb and kill anybody, Asmongold? Does Israel have the right to just bomb and kill everybody?
Who, has an ideology that they disagree with, or is aligned with people that they disagree with.
Wow, so what you're saying is that you shouldn't just attack people because you ideologically disagree with them. Is that what I'm getting from you, Asgold? Because I got some bad news for you, dog, about how this thing started.
Well, if they think that they do, then I think that we should disagree. I think the reality is that this is a power struggle. It is. It's a pure, simple power struggle. And
wait, he said we disagree? Like, what I'm just getting at, what I'm just amazed by is that if the U.S. has very openly said they feel they have the right to attack anyone who ideologically disagrees with them, or is aligned with somebody who ideologically disagrees with them. And I've never heard Askold ever have any problem with that.
I want America and Western forces to come out on top of it. It's really that simple. Iran represents a nexus of third worldism, radical Islamism.
Yeah, this motherfucker, I would love to hear him explain what third worldism is.
Shitty behavior, terrorism.
Wow, they got shitty behavior and terror. Like, what is shitty behavior? Like, do they tailgate? Is that what he's saying? Do they not press the hold open button on the lift when they see somebody running for it? What does he mean, shitty behavior?
And just in general, like, world destabilization.
Wow, so they're the one... Okay. Not the people who decided to attack Iran in the first place in order to facilitate a genocide? See, I would have thought that they kind of had a role in destabilizing things, because Iran wasn't doing this like 3 weeks ago.
Everybody should be against this. Like, if you're speaking English in my chat right now, you should be against Iran.
Wow, I mean, that's the thing about should.
It's not even a question. Trigger on the finger.
Wait, I wonder if he's gonna look at the polls on
For the motions? Yeah, exactly.
Because, like, virtually nobody in the U.S. supports this.
Meant to affect global energy, and it's working. Well, like, doesn't that... The thing is that what you're saying is that they're trying to affect global energy.
Well, yes. In fact, they specifically... This is one of the reasons why, actually, it was a bad idea to attack them. Because it's one of the things that they said they would do in response to an attack. Because it is some of the leverage they have. Because they see this quite reasonably as an existential struggle against a genocidal empire.
So your argument is that they're trying to cause as much damage to the entire globe, and the response to that should be that we shouldn't completely obliterate them?
Well, I mean, the question is, do you want that damage to be maximized? In which case, totally. Do the obliterating thing. See what happens. Because what they've done is just escalate along with, just behind. They have never actually escalated to the same level as the U.S. and Israel. There's a lot of stuff the U.S. and Israel do routinely that they aren't doing. Like, they aren't, like, bombing fucking schools and hospitals. They're not doing anything like that. They are very specifically targeting military targets, which is why you don't really get to see much about what hits in Israel, because the censorship of anything that hits military targets is extremely strict. But if the idea is you want to avoid damage to global energy, Askold, maybe the thing to do would be to stop attacking them and try to reach a deal.
Why would we allow them to just basically indiscriminately try to do as much damage as possible to...
Why would they allow you?
The global energy ecosystem.
The global energy ecosystem. That is such a fascinating... Like, that is just a fascinating phrase there. The global energy... Like, two things that really do not belong together.
Really, think about that. Like,
apparently, actually, speaking of the global energy ecosystem, or the global energy system and the ecosystem, apparently this is starting to cause accelerated solar conversions in some places. So in addition to, it looks like actually the attacks on U.S. assets in the UAE may have led to the genocidal rapid support forces retreating in Sudan. We can add to that apparently there's a lot of interest in rapid solar conversion now because of this. So this may actually end up being an ecological plus.
if that's what they do, and instead of actually trying to fight a war against the people that they're being attacked by.
But they are fighting a war against the people they're being attacked by, though. And wait a second, did he just admit that they're being attacked? Like, maybe if you don't like what's going on, and they're responding to an attack, that the thing you should be doing is addressing your demands to the people who are doing the attacking.
Instead of that, they just go and instead blow up as much as they possibly can.
All those poor innocent U.S. bases.
Yeah, I don't think so. They do it to make you stop, brother. Well, that's the thing.
Well, you like he is getting fucking schooled by his chat.
Is that, do you want to live in a world with a country that will indiscriminately bomb and kill people that aren't even related to a conflict in order to...
I hate to tell you this, but you're living in one.
Hopefully achieve a geopolitical goal of making somebody else attacking them, because...
Like... Wow, like somebody... somebody, again, in his chat is somebody in his chat's like, isn't that what Israel does?
That's terrorism. That's what it is. They're
no, that's
terrorists. So, in my opinion, I think that we should go. I am all in on regime change. I am.
Wow, I mean, okay, I think that's great. I think Asmongold should go enlist and get on the boat with those Marines and do and live stream an amphibious landing into Iran. I want to see it. Of course, I don't think we would have any more not Afro Man, Asmongold. He's got Afro Man under who to follow here, and syllabically they're structured the same, both words. But yeah, like, go enlist. Let's watch you do it. Come on.
All in on bombing Iran. I think we need to get rid of these people.
How's that going for you, Asgold? I mean, it's like this has been going on for 3 weeks now, and the U.S. is fucking losing. Israel is really losing, and he's just sitting here talking about like this is the easiest thing in the world. Why don't we just like take out, why don't we just replace their? Oh, wait a second. Israel actually killed a whole bunch of their top leadership, and it turns out they got in order of succession. They've already replaced them, and the result is that the people that replaced them are even more committed to fighting this until the U.S. and Israel shut the fuck up than their predecessors were. So maybe people have tried your brilliant strategy, Aspen Clausewitz.
Much as possible. Like, I was, like, kind of on the fence about it. I was like, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
At this point, after seeing the amount of indiscriminate bombing and attacks they've done...
Just to be clear, Chad, he's talking about Iran, who haven't been doing that. He's not talking about the U.S. and Israel, who have been doing that.
I think that it is 100% the morally correct decision to completely wipe these people out of existence.
Wait, because he's against attacking random people. This man is fascinating. Like, just the way he can say, like, within the space of one sentence, he goes, it's because we can't tolerate, like, random people being attacked, that we need to wipe an entire ethnicity off the earth.
Because if you don't do that, if this is what they do whenever they're at this power level...
It's interesting that I feel like he switched up that sentence. I was going to say whenever they're attacked. Like, maybe don't attack them.
Imagine what happens if they get questioned or they don't get what they want.
What we're actually seeing, they didn't want to be attacked. And this is what you get when you attack them, actually. So maybe the thing to do is not attack them.
And they have a nuclear bomb.
Which they are not even trying to get. Although, at this point, I would say I would be really shocked if they continued to maintain an anti-nuclear weapons stance in the midst of all this shit.
About how scary that is. The main thing that we should be doing is finding every single person in leadership part of this ideology and systematically getting rid of every single one of them.
Yeah, his chat is sitting here. Yeah. Hey, somebody on the somebody called Muffin Funnel goes, isn't this what the U.S. is doing as well? I'm not sure if he's saying that this is already what the U.S. is supposedly trying to do, as in kill top leadership and hope that changes everything, or whether this person is saying that, I mean, the U.S. is murdering random people. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's taking a position. This is like when Ben Shapiro tried to scaremonger over Brian Thompson and he got monstered by his own chat. Everyone's like, I've been watching you for as long as there's been you to watch, and you got the wrong end of this one, buddy. Kind of shit. I mean, this is a thing where virtually nobody supports this. And that includes the sort of people who watch fucking Askold.
So that's what my opinion is on it, right? The thousands of protesters they killed? Well, they killed more of them today, too.
Who's they?
That's what's crazy is that...
I mean, you mean the U.S. bombed more?
You think that the Iranian, like the executions are over? They did more executions literally today. So they executed 3 people. Here we go. The Islamic regime in Iran hanged a 19-year-old...
Okay, this is from a neo-Nazi. If you're not familiar with Visegrad 420, it is a neo-Nazi Twitter account. It is sort of respectable. Iran hangs PO tester. So there's absolutely no credibility to this source.
Wrestler and anti-regime protester today. So this is another person who has been executed by...
I mean, according to a neo-Nazi hoax Twitter channel.
By this country.
Well, so you care about Iranians when they're killed, just not when... I mean, you were just saying a second ago that they should be wiped off the face of the earth. Like, that would include the people who are protesting,
A lot of ideology, a lot of that ideology are from Sunnis. Well, Iran's a Shia country, it's pretty obvious, right?
And no, I mean, majority, yes, but there are actually a lot of regions that are majority Sunni.
Right.
I mean, and then there are Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians as well.
So, but why do we dismantle countries now and not take them over, bring back colonization?
Well, because the thing is, it doesn't work. Those countries, the reason that those countries aren't colonized now is because they kicked the colonizers out. Like, I mean, learn a little bit of history at least.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think we need to colonize it. I think that they're going to colonize themselves in a way...
They're going to colonize themselves. I don't know that that's how colonization works.
It's beneficial for us. I think that a lot of the Iranians, they don't want to have their government, have that happen either.
Have what happen? They don't want the government to have them colonize themselves?
And so, yeah, let's see here. This is the way it looks like right now, maybe. Holy fuck. Look at those bombs. Oh my God. Predictive History did a whole video where he called all the things that are happening right now. I feel like the U.S. government went into the war with no real strategy.
I mean, very clearly.
Do you really think that the United States government doesn't have a strategy?
I think that's literally what he just said. But okay, Askold, let's hear it. What's their strategy?
Like, this is the type of, just...
He's going to explain. He's going to get his galaxy brain out and the dead rat, and they're going to explain the strategy to us. I can't wait.
Stupid third worldism that happens. Obviously,
wow, yeah. Pointing out that the U.S. doesn't have a strategy is the kind of third worldism that happens.
They have a strategy. They clearly have a strategy.
Okay, what is it?
We have thousands of them. Yes, it's ridiculous. These are the.
Oh, they have thousands of them, chat. They have thousands of strategies. Yeah, but I mean, what? So what's the strategy for this one? What's the idea? I mean, other than completely. I mean, this is like accidentally decolonizing the Middle East.
People that were able to capture Maduro without having a single soldier get injured.
Oh, well, because that's a different thing. It's one thing to do a kidnapping with some bombings of civilians as cover. I mean, if they would, especially when you only have to go, like, he was on the coast at the time. Like, they did not have to go deep into Venezuela to make that happen. And then they just got out, and that was it. If they had wanted, like, this isn't that. This obviously isn't that.
Or like, I guess seriously injured, right? And you think that they can't plan this out at all? They don't have a plan at all?
Well, okay, so what's the plan?
And some random, pretend teacher on YouTube has a better idea than all these people that have infinitely more information than they do.
Okay, so what's the plan? I mean, okay, you've sold me. Obviously, these are very clever people. This obviously is going exactly the way that they would want it to go. They obviously wanted Israel to get wrecked, and the Straits of Hormuz to get shut down, and, U.S. aircraft carriers to get fucking kicked out of the Red Sea, and all that stuff. They clearly, they meant to do that, obviously. So, like, what's the strategy? What's their objective? Oh, Einar Imperium goes, if they had a strategy, then the strait wouldn't be closed right now. Burn. Yeah, he is getting so completely monstered by his chat.
Like, again, this is a massive third worlder cope.
A massive third world, like, what does that mean?
Massive, gigantic third worlder cope.
Oh, it's gigantic, too.
Yes.
So, okay, so what's the fucking strategy?
Overwhelming force is a strategy. That's right.
No, it isn't. It's a tactic. Like, do you know what a strategy is?
Right. We don't appear to have a strategy. They had tactics, but long term, no.
I mean, I wouldn't even say medium term. Short terms look at iffy, too.
How do you... what makes you think that they don't have a strategy?
What makes you think that they do? I mean, if they do, like, the easiest thing to do right here to clear this up would be to just say, here's the strategy, here's what their objective is, here's how they intend to achieve it, here's how they have made progress toward it. That's how strategies work, but he doesn't know what strategies are or how strategies work, so he can't do that.
Why do you think that? Like, they're literally systematically killing every single IRGC member that comes out and is on camera.
I mean, actually, not all of them. There are quite a few who are still on camera, actually. That isn't a strategy either. Because the thing is, there are a lot of people in the IRGC. All of these institutions have lots of people in them. Like, just fucking taking out a hit on one at a time is not a fucking strategy.
They're blowing up individual stops constantly.
The schools, hospitals.
They're bombing missile stations every single day.
I mean, there's no evidence that they're bombing any of them, actually. I mean, they keep on, like, Netanyahu was claiming that Iran has no missile capability. They can't build missiles anymore. No evidence provided for that. But it is exactly the sort of thing that they said when they were trying to get out of it the last time.
Like, they're blowing up ships constantly.
Constantly, wow. I wonder if Iran is doing anything in response.
They're trying to set this up, like, constantly. They're blowing up the banks.
They're blowing up the banks.
Everything. That's not a strategy?
No, it isn't. That's just fucking massacring civilians, actually. Like, does he not know? He doesn't know what a strategy is, chat. He literally does not understand the concept.
Wait a minute. That's not a that's absolutely a strategy.
So, the strategy then is just sort of bomb random civilians and, you know, assassinate politicians. And then watch the air defense capability of U.S. bases across the region get completely exhausted and watch those bases get wrecked. An F-35 got targeted just the other day. This is all part of a brilliant strategy. Oh, and like all of Israel's major military facilities are taking hits, direct hits at this point. I mean, this is the strategy, and the Straits of Hormuz, they have no way to open them. I mean, Trump did say that the Navy, the U.S. Navy, would escort anyone who asked for it, and then lots of companies asked for it, and the U.S. Navy said, actually, we're not in the escorting business. We don't do that. And then Trump was like, please, could somebody here, some other country, use their Navy and get sunk escorting fucking oil tankers? How could anyone say that there is no strategy? How could anyone say that this is not brilliant? I mean...
What do you mean? That's 100% a strategy. Yes, that's a great strategy. Oh my god, it's a third world cope? I know, like it...
I mean, we don't have third world things like strategies.
It's so sad, man. Chatters forget that even at peak Bush incompetence, we took Iraq in weeks. Yeah.
Well, yes, but the thing is, Iraq was disarmed first. See, that's the thing. That was part of the strategy there, was to disarm Iraq first. They spent years doing it. By the time they invaded, they knew Iraq was not capable of putting up any fight. They didn't have air defenses, they didn't have coastal defenses, they didn't have armor, they didn't have shit. That was the strategy. See, the thing is that Iran has all those things. And this is what that looks like when you attack somebody who has all those things.
Exactly. And if they had a strategy, would they have to lift sanctions on Russia in order to stabilize oil?
I mean, and lift sanctions on Iran too, as it turns out.
This is the type of third world ideology that I think...
What the fuck is third world ideology to Asmongold?
I think is just so shocking.
Okay. Why are you shocked? It seems like an obvious question to me.
That is the strategy.
So they did all of this so they would have to lift sanctions on Russia and Iran in order to try to stabilize the energy markets? Why didn't they just do that in the first place then? They could have just done that. Would have been a lot easier and a lot less expensive.
You are explaining what the strategy is.
So... What? I mean, no, at most it is the strategy for coping with the problem they got themselves into by starting a war against somebody who can shoot back. Okay, it is time for me to wrap up. We will leave Asmongold to explain his high-level strategic thinking to his chat. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Have a good night.